After Jenna cheated on me, I figured things couldn't get much worse. Turns out, I had no idea just how deep betrayal could cut, especially when it came from my own blood. We'd been married 3 years. I was just settling into my new job as a firefighter, working long shifts, saving up to put a down payment on a house. Jenna was teaching at a local elementary school. Smart, beautiful, kind, or so I thought. Then one Thursday afternoon, I stopped by her school to surprise her with lunch. I was off duty, still in uniform, holding a bag of Thai takeout and a Dr. Pepper. Her classroom was empty, but her car was still in the lot. I checked the lounge. Nothing. Her co-workers said she'd left early, claiming she wasn't feeling well. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Something felt off, so I drove home. Her car wasn't there either. I figured she must be at her mom's. But as I pulled onto the highway, I saw it, her silver Corolla parked outside the roadside Skylark Motel, the one with the flickering neon sign and $29 room specials. I didn't know what I was doing until I was already knocking on the door of room 6. I only needed 1 second. One glimpse of her half-dressed, laughing with some guy I didn't recognize, still wearing his gym badge around his neck. She gasped. He smirked. I walked away before she could even say a word. It felt like my entire life deflated. We divorced within the month. Jenna never apologized, not really. Just said she needed to feel alive again. That she never really felt seen. That I was too much in love with routine. Whatever that meant. After the papers were signed, I went home to stay with my folks for a bit. Tried to get my head straight. That's when I started spending more time around Rachel, my younger sister. Rachel was always the star. For years younger than me, the golden child. Big smile, big energy, all eyes on her when she walked in a room. Even as kids, she had a way of getting what she wanted. But as adults, her charms turned toxic. She had a bad habit of inserting herself into my relationships. High school, college, after, didn't matter. If I liked someone, Rachel found a way to be their new best friend. At first I thought I was imagining things. Then came Molly. I dated Molly for nearly a year. She met Rachel at Thanksgiving. 2 months later, they were just hanging out all the time. One night Molly didn't come home. She said she was at Rachel's. She was, all right. With Rachel. And that was just one example of many. After Jenna, I promised myself I wouldn't fall for anyone fast. But then I met Claire. Sweet, funny, thoughtful. We met at a mutual friend's wedding. Claire had this calming energy, like no matter what chaos life threw your way, she'd weather the storm with you. We took things slow. Coffee dates turned into long walks. Then road trips. Then sleepovers. After 6 months, I still hadn't told Rachel about her. I knew better. But my mom slipped up. She mentioned Claire during a Sunday call, and within 2 days, Rachel was texting me asking if I was seeing someone new. Just a friend, I lied. She didn't believe it. A week later, she bumped into Claire at the farmer's market. Sent me a selfie of the two of them laughing over fresh peaches. I asked Claire about it. She laughed and said Rachel seemed nice. Just a little intense. A month passed. I thought maybe I was just paranoid. Then came the night Claire didn't answer her phone. Hours passed. Then a text, "I'll call you in the morning." Sorry, just needed time to think. I already knew. Next day, Claire showed up at my place crying. She confessed everything. Rachel had been messaging her nonstop. Flirting. Suggesting I was damaged goods. That I had abandonment issues from Jenna. That Claire could do better. Then, one night, Rachel came over to talk while Claire was house-sitting for her cousin. Brought wine. Made her laugh. And kissed her. Claire said she pushed her away immediately, but the damage was done. The emotional affair, the breach of trust, all of it. That was the last straw. I told Rachel I never wanted to see her again. She laughed. Said, "Come on, Noah. I'm just helping you weed out the weak ones. If they fall for me, they're not worth keeping." I hung up. Blocked her number. But I didn't forget. 2 years passed. I focused on work. I got promoted. Started hiking again. Rebuilt. And then one day, I met Brent. Not for me, but for Rachel. See, Brent wasn't your average charming guy. He was good looking, sure. Smart, successful on the surface. But dig a little deeper and you'd find a web of lawsuits, 2 restraining orders, and a pending embezzlement case. A con man. A real one. I met him through a guy I knew from the station. Said Brent had scammed his cousin. I looked into it, saw the pattern, and made a decision. Just long enough to get his attention. Told him about my beautiful, irresistible sister. Showed him photos. Told him how she stole my life out from under me. He was intrigued. I introduced them at a coffee shop, accidentally running into each other. Rachel was hooked in minutes. By the next week, they were dating. Within 3 months, she moved in. She gave him access to her finances. Her business accounts. Her future. Then came the crash. Rachel called me sobbing. Brent had drained her accounts. Racked up debt in her name. Disappeared. And now there was talk of federal charges because he used her company to funnel fake investments. She was drowning. Noah, please. I messed up. I didn't know. I didn't see it coming. I hung up the phone. Sometimes revenge doesn't feel good. It just feels necessary. Rachel lost everything. Her reputation. Her savings. Her confidence. I watched her learn what it meant to be taken apart from the inside out. I don't take pride in it. But I sleep better now. Because some people only learn the hard way. And my sister finally learned what betrayal really feels like. The weeks following Rachel's fall were a blur of headlines and whispered accusations. Her name splashed across local news outlets, tied to Brent's embezzlement scandal. Friends stopped calling. Her social media accounts went silent, save for the occasional cryptic post about starting over or learning lessons. She moved out of her apartment, foreclosed, and into a tiny studio on the outskirts of town, far from the life she once knew. Noah didn't visit her. He couldn't. Every time he thought about picking up the phone or driving to her new place, his chest tightened. Not because he felt guilty, but because he wasn't sure what he'd say if he saw her. Would he tell her she deserved it? That this was the reckoning she'd been building toward her entire life? Or would he ask why she never saw him as anything more than an obstacle in her path? Instead, he threw himself into work. The fire station became his sanctuary, a place where decisions had clear outcomes, where lives were saved or lost based on skill and teamwork, not betrayal and manipulation. His crew noticed the change in him. They joked that he was quieter than usual, but they also respected his focus. If anything, Noah's intensity made him sharper, better at his job. But even amidst the controlled chaos of firefighting, there were moments when Rachel crept back into his thoughts. Like the night he responded to a call at a burning apartment complex and found a young woman clutching her brother's hand, begging him to stay safe. Something about their desperation reminded him of how things used to be between him and Rachel before resentment took root. One rainy afternoon, nearly 6 months after everything fell apart, Claire called. Noah hadn't spoken to her since the day she confessed Rachel's interference. He'd tried reaching out once or twice in the immediate aftermath, but she politely declined, saying she needed space. Now, hearing her voice again felt like stepping into sunlight after months underground. "Hey, stranger," she said softly. "I hope you don't mind me calling." "No, Noah hesitated, unsure how to respond. "It's good to hear from you." They met later that evening at a quiet cafe downtown. Claire looked different, calmer, maybe. Her hair was shorter, framing her face in soft waves, and she wore a scarf knotted loosely around her neck despite the warm spring air. As they sat down, Noah realized he still cared deeply for her. "Maybe too much." "I've been thinking about you," Claire admitted after ordering tea. "About everything that happened. With Rachel, with us." "You don't owe me an explanation," Noah interrupted quickly, though his heart sank at the implication. "I know," she said, meeting his gaze. "But I think we both deserve one." What followed was a long, honest conversation. Claire explained how Rachel's messages had preyed on her insecurities, making her doubt Noah's intentions and her own worth. She admitted feeling flattered by Rachel's attention at first, then confused and overwhelmed when it crossed boundaries. By the time she realized what was happening, the damage was done. "I should have told you sooner," Claire said, her voice breaking slightly. "I let her get inside my head, and I'm so sorry for that." Noah nodded, absorbing her words. Part of him wanted to hold on to the anger, to blame Claire for giving Rachel power over their relationship, but another part understood. Rachel had always been a force of nature, impossible to ignore or resist. Even Noah had spent years trying to earn her approval before realizing it came at a cost. "I'm sorry too," he said finally. "For letting her come between us. For not protecting you from her. Claire reached across the table, placing her hand over his. You can't protect everyone from everything, Noah. Sometimes, people just make mistakes. Her touch sent a jolt through him, reigniting feelings he'd buried deep. But instead of leaning into them, Noah pulled back slightly. There was still so much unresolved, not just with Claire, but within himself. A few days later, Noah received a package in the mail. Inside was a handwritten letter from Rachel. Her handwriting was shaky, almost unrecognizable, and the pages smelled faintly of smoke as if she'd written them late at night, chain-smoking cigarettes while staring at walls. Dear Noah, I don't expect you to forgive me. Hell, I don't even know if I can forgive myself. Losing everything has been humbling, terrifying. I never imagined I'd end up here, alone and stripped of everything I worked for. Brent was a wake-up call, but not in the way you might think. Sure, he screwed me over royally, but what hurts more is knowing I set myself up for it. I trusted the wrong person because I thought I could control him. Just like I thought I could control everyone else, including you. I've spent most of my life taking things from people without considering the cost. From mom and dad's praise to your girlfriends to your patience. I convinced myself I deserved it all, that I was entitled to whatever I wanted. And now I see how wrong I was. I won't ask you to take me back. Honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you never spoke to me again. But I wanted to say thank you for showing me who I really am. It's ugly, painful, and exhausting, but it's real. And maybe, someday, I'll figure out how to do better. Love, if you'll still believe it. Rachel. Noah read the letter 3 times before setting it aside. For the first time in years, he felt something other than rage when he thought of his sister, pity. Not the kind that comes from superiority, but the kind born of understanding. Rachel had always been reckless, selfish, and manipulative, but she was also human. Flawed, broken, and desperate for connection in ways neither of them fully understood. He didn't reply right away. Instead, he tucked the letter into a drawer and returned to his routine, letting the weight of her words settle slowly. Over the next few weeks, he found himself reflecting on his own choices, the revenge he'd orchestrated, the bridges he'd burned, the people he'd pushed away. Was he any less responsible for the wreckage in his life than Rachel was for hers? By summer, Noah had started seeing Claire again. Their relationship was tentative at first, built on shared vulnerability and cautious optimism. She encouraged him to confront his past rather than bury it, reminding him that healing wasn't linear. Together, they began exploring therapy not as a couple, but individually, and gradually, Noah started to untangle the knots of guilt, anger, and grief that had bound him for so long. As for Rachel, she eventually resurfaced in small, unexpected ways. A text here, a voicemail there. At first, Noah ignored them, unsure if he was ready to rebuild what they'd lost. But one day, he surprised himself by sending a simple message, "How are you?" Her response came hours later, brief but sincere, "Better. Still learning." And for the first time in years, Noah believed her. The months that followed were a delicate dance of rebuilding. Noah wasn't naive enough to believe forgiveness came easily, or at all, but he found himself cautiously stepping towards something resembling peace. With Claire by his side, he began to confront the lingering shadows of his past, while Rachel, on her own fractured path, grappled with the wreckage she'd created. It started with small gestures between Noah and Rachel. A text exchange here, an awkward phone call there. They tiptoed around their shared history, avoiding loaded topics like Brent or Jenna or Claire. Instead, they talked about mundane things, the weather, old family recipes, books they'd read recently. It felt strange, almost foreign, but it was progress. One evening, after a particularly long shift at the fire station, Noah decided to visit Rachel. He hadn't been to her new place yet, a modest one-bedroom apartment tucked above a bakery, and as he climbed the narrow staircase, he felt a mix of apprehension and curiosity. The scent of fresh bread wafted through the air, grounding him in the moment. Rachel opened the door before he could knock, as if she'd been waiting anxiously for his arrival. She looked smaller somehow, less polished than the sister he remembered from their childhood. Her hair was pulled back into a loose bun, and she wore an oversized hoodie that dwarfed her frame. For once, she didn't seem intent on dazzling anyone. "Hey," she said softly, stepping aside to let him in. The apartment was sparse but tidy, with second-hand furniture and mismatched throw pillows. On the coffee table sat a sketchpad and pencils, something Noah hadn't seen since high school, when Rachel used to doodle endlessly during boring lectures. "You're drawing again?" he asked, picking up the pad. She shrugged, looking sheepish. "Trying to. It helps me focus." Noah flipped through the pages, surprised by what he saw. Landscapes, portraits, abstract shapes, all rendered with a raw honesty that felt unfamiliar coming from Rachel. There was pain in those sketches, but also hope. Something about them reminded him of how she used to be before the world hardened her edges. "They're good," he said finally, setting the pad down. "Really good." Rachel smiled faintly, then gestured for him to sit. They spent the next hour talking not about apologies or regrets, but about life. She told him about her part-time job at the bakery downstairs, her tentative efforts to rebuild her credit, and the art classes she'd started attending at the community center. In turn, Noah shared bits of his own journey, the promotion at work, his growing relationship with Claire, and the slow unraveling of his anger. By the time he left, Noah realized something important: Rachel wasn't trying to charm him anymore. She wasn't performing or manipulating, she was simply present. Vulnerable. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. As autumn approached, Noah and Claire took a weekend trip to the mountains. It was their first real getaway together since reconnecting, and the crisp air and golden leaves provided a soothing backdrop for deeper conversations. One night, as they sat by a campfire under a canopy of stars, Claire broached a subject Noah had been avoiding. "What happens if Rachel tries to come back into your life for real?" she asked, poking at the fire with a stick. "Not just texts or visits, but fully? Are you ready for that?" Noah hesitated, staring into the flames. "I don't know," he admitted. "Part of me wants to trust her again, but another part keeps waiting for the other shoe to drop. What if this is just another act? Another way to get close so she can hurt me again?" Claire nodded thoughtfully. "That's fair. But isn't it possible she's changed? People can grow, Noah, even people who've made terrible mistakes." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I want to believe that. I do. But forgiving someone is one thing. Trusting them is another. And you don't have to rush either," Claire added gently. "You've already done so much work to heal. Let her earn it. Slowly." Her words stayed with him long after they returned home. Over the next few weeks, Noah found himself testing the boundaries of his relationship with Rachel. He invited her to dinner once, then to a family gathering hosted by their parents. Each interaction felt like walking a tightrope, balancing caution with openness, but gradually, the tension eased. For Rachel, change didn't come overnight. There were setbacks, days when the weight of her failures threatened to crush her, but she persisted. Art became her anchor, a way to channel her emotions without resorting to manipulation or evasion. Through her classes, she met others who were also navigating difficult transitions, recovering addicts, ex-convicts, survivors of abuse. Listening to their stories helped her see her own struggles in a new light. One day, she received an email from the instructor of her advanced drawing class. The local gallery was hosting a showcase for emerging artists, and Rachel had been selected to display 2 pieces. At first, she panicked. What if no one liked her work? What if she embarrassed herself? But then she remembered Noah's quiet praise during his visit, the way he'd lingered over her sketches. Maybe, just maybe, she had something worth sharing. The night of the showcase, Noah and Claire showed up together, surprising Rachel with bouquets of wildflowers. As they wandered through the gallery, admiring the eclectic mix of paintings, sculptures, and photographs, Rachel watched nervously as strangers stopped to examine her work. To her amazement, several people complimented her pieces, asking thoughtful questions about her process and inspiration. When the crowd thinned, Noah pulled her aside. "This is incredible, Rach," he said, gesturing to her corner of the room. "You should be proud." Tears welled in her eyes as she hugged him tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "For coming. For believing in me." In that moment, something shifted between them, not entirely healed, but undeniably stronger. Forgiveness wasn't a single act, it was a series of moments, each one building on the last. By winter, Noah felt lighter than he had in years. His bond with Claire deepened, grounded in mutual respect and understanding. Together, they navigated the complexities of love and trust, learning to communicate openly and support each other through challenges. Meanwhile, Rachel continued to find her footing. She secured a small grant to develop a community art program for at-risk youth, channeling her experiences into something meaningful. Though their relationship remained cautious, Noah couldn't deny the pride he felt watching her evolve. Of course, scars remained. Some wounds never fully healed, but perhaps that was okay. Life wasn't about erasing pain, it was about finding ways to carry it without letting it define you. As snow blanketed the city one December evening, Noah stood on his balcony, sipping hot cocoa and watching the lights twinkle below. Claire joined him, wrapping an arm around his waist. "You look peaceful," she observed, leaning her head against his shoulder. "I feel it," he replied, smiling. "For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And for now, that was enough."